What's up, beautiful human on the other end of this screen? Hope you're having an amazing day. Today we're going to talk about how you can create a category of one for yourself in a way that helps you feel really authentic, helps you not feel boxed in, and at the same time also allows you to really magnetize your people to you. And specifically, we're going to be talking about how you can leverage your story as well as your human design to really see how the stars aligned for you to show up, serve, express yourself. And really my intention with this is to help you have even more clarity around how you can position yourself in a way that's effective with your business, and also to have even more affirmation and for your gifts and permission to really let go of any masks and allow more of your full self to be able to be expressed, so that the right people can know that you are a solution for them, right? And if you don't know who I am, my name is Kyle Summersall, and I work with conscious leaders, right? Helping them to scale their business through a combination of systems, marketing, sales, and really deep inner work that really helps them to just get out of their own way, right? And so it's both the personal inner transformation that's so important for you and your mission, with the practical strategies as well. And so what I'm talking about here, has helped me grow my business to multiple six figures, right? It's helped clients like my client here, Tommy, really transform his business, right? Have 50K weeks in revenue because of, not solely because of this work, but this work creates a lot of focused energy, that can allow us to get a lot more in return, for the energy we put out. So what we'll do today is we'll start off by just really thinking about why this is so important, and then we'll transition a little more into how you can actually do this for yourself, right? And so this is so important because a lot of us, we're multifaceted, right? We're complex human beings, right? So it can be challenging for you to understand how can you connect your different interests? How can you connect these different parts of you in a way that isn't confusing to you, isn't confusing to other people, but still allows you to feel fully expressed, right? And then at the same time, many conscious leaders, we know our work is so helpful, right? And so we know it can be effective for anybody, right? But not everyone is actually going to be energizing for you. And not everyone is actually ready to do the work, right? So it is important for us to have some specificity around who we're speaking to. One, because then we'll actually get energizing people. And then two, because then that person that we actually want to attract feels seen by us, feels understood by us, and actually wants to move forward with your solution, right? And so that's another issue, is that oftentimes we just aren't specific enough about who we are speaking to, right? And some other things that keep people from really carving out their own category, right, is they don't want to be rejected, right, for who they really are, right? So it might be easier to be on the surface level, right? Like I have a client in mind right now, and she knows so much of her work, the importance of it is to help people heal different relational wounds, right? And so that they are able to own more of themselves, able to have more secure attachments, more secure relationships. And she leverages astrology and human design for a lot of this work. But, in her actual content, she's primarily sharing what she would refer to as more surface level astrology, human design content, right? And the reason for this, right, what we've been talking through is, looking at these parts of her that are scared that if she actually owns more of what she really wants to talk about, she might be rejected, right? And so that's one of the reasons why we might have resistance, right, to really owning our category, right? And another thing is that we might not want to be boxed in, right? We might not want to narrow our focus because we're so complex. There's so much more that we can talk about, right? But I actually think about this as not boxing yourself in, but actually owning your uniqueness. Owning that you have differences, right? And so what happens when we do this is that you become the niche, right? You are the niche, right? And so it's not about picking one specific thing, but for example, if you are I work with a lot of people that are kind of like nutritionists, holistic health people, right? And it's really easy to just position yourself, market yourself as this nutritionist, as this holistic health person, right? Because other people have done it, right? And they've had success with it, right? But the reality is your story and your reason for maybe being in holistic health or being this nutritionist is going to be different from anyone else, right? You might be doing, this is not saying this is you, but like this person, or even if I think about some of my clients, right, they might be doing more of this holistic health because they had gut issues or because they had skin issues, right? And maybe they realized that, whoa, these were all a result of stuck trauma in the body and a result of, some relational things, right? And now full circle, really their mission is not just to help people deal with these health things or eat these specific foods. It's to really help people reclaim their power, to really help people to feel like, they can actually be themselves in a way, And so with that, there's so much more to their mission than just like sharing a specific salad that someone should do or sharing tips for, how to have clearer skin, right? But yet, a lot of us will, instead of having that specificity around our specific story and the specific transformation we feel called to have people have, we might be resistant to, narrowing our focus around ourselves and our own story, and instead we stay really surface level and give these different tips, right? So really what I'm getting at is this idea of niching down. It isn't to box you in. It's, at least in the way I'm presenting it, it's so that you own more of who you are. So in a way you are narrowing your focus, but you're narrowing your focus on accepting and sharing more of your true story, more of who you really are. And what this does for your business, right, is it allows you to actually attract the most energizing clients instead of people that drain you, right? Because then you actually have people that are coming for your specific values, your specific story, and, your specific solution, right? And you aren't just getting anyone that maybe is looking for holistic health. Maybe you're looking for people that specifically speak your language and want a similar dream outcome to the one you desire or the one you've had, right? In addition to that, you actually have people that are able to see you as a solution, right? They're not just inspired by you, they're able to see, wow, you help people like me, right? It's like if you are, if you are looking for someone to do a surgery, right? Maybe you want to have, a nose surgery or whatever it might be, right? You might be looking for people that have done surgeries similar to others that have done surgery on others that have maybe a similar complexion to you or a similar nose structure to you, or etc., right? You're going to look for the person that knows how to work with people like you specifically, right? You want to feel really seen and understood by that person, and then you'll see them as more of a solution. So that is one thing that this does. And then a really huge thing as well, right, is just really being able to unshame parts of yourself, unshamed parts of who you are, right? Which leads to greater power and a deeper understanding of how you can actually serve others, right? And so this is life-changing stuff, really. It's not just, the way people think about niching, right? And so, as I shared before, really the ways that we can do this are through looking at your story, right? As well as your human design. And I like to start with story because oftentimes people can use their human design to kind of box themselves in and create another identifier, another limiter, right? But really in your story, the things that you've been through, right? Your mess is your message, right? The things that you've been through give you a certain level of skill set, wisdom, insight to actually be able to help people, right? And so with that, there's a process that I call the unique genius framework, right? And really the idea behind, I'm going to show you this, really the idea behind the unique genius framework, right? There are multiple things that we're able to look at. And so I'm going to explain how to leverage this framework to get clearer on your positioning, as well as what are some things to look out for to make it the most effective, right? So the unique genius framework, it's made up of your competence, right? So these are kind of like, I like to think about this as mind, body, soul, right? So this is more the mind, right? This is like skills you've gotten, maybe courses you've taken, knowledge you've acquired, jobs you've done. And then a really important part of this is ways that you have transformed, right? So maybe going from like people pleasing to having a more secure attachment, right? So I'll share some examples of mine in a second, right? And then there's the body, which I like to think of as like your story, your trauma, your conditioning, your experiences. Of course, there's going to be some overlap. And then your soul, which I like to think about as your unique design, which is really where we can bring in more of the human design element, right? So now just to start off, I'm going to walk you through how to do this, but while I also explain, how it's beneficial, right? So the first thing that you want to do, to be able to get more clarity on this unique genius is you just want to list out all of your skills, all of your knowledge, all the ways you transformed. And it doesn't have to be directly related to your current business. It can also be things that you've maybe done in school or things that you maybe done in a previous job, right? So for me, I would list out things like copywriting, meditation, somatic experiencing, email marketing, right? Building automations, things like that. But then the transformation can also be like learning how to create boundaries, right? Learning how to create a more secure attachment rather than a more avoidant attachment, things like that, right? So you just want to list out your skills and your competence, right? And then the next step is we can really look even more at your story, right? And we can really start to see, okay, how did your specific story, your specific experience, how did it maybe lead you to learn these different skills, these different transformations? Of course, we have God, but what is the through line that you see between these different things, right? And we're later going to be able to then see how they help you or someone else with one of their basic human needs, their health, their wealth, their relationships. I put self-esteem here as well, but really, when I say relationships, I don't just mean relationships to others, I mean relationships to self as well. So I like to even fit self-esteem in the relational bucket, right? But to think about this and how this works, right? So you had, your specific story, right? You had your specific experiences, the house you were raised in, your parents, your school, things you were drawn towards, trauma you've experienced, etc., right? And that created some needs, right? So in order to like actually heal some of this stuff, or suffer less, so just enjoy life more, right? There were some needs that were created that likely drew you to develop some knowledge or some skills or to transform in specific ways, right? And so these needs, from your story drew you to develop in specific ways. Now also, there's also just general curiosity, right? There's general things that we just are excited about or want to learn about, or I don't know, we had influential people in our life that wanted to teach about that, right? So there's needs, but there's also curiosity and just desire in general that's leading us to create these competences, right? And this process, it's allowing us to develop ourselves. It's allowing us to feel more free, right? And the big thing here is recognize, right? I hope you're able to see like some of these things that maybe we had shame about, or maybe we don't think are a big deal, right? If I think about myself, let me think about an example that makes sense. Yeah, I had, some body image stuff when I was younger, right? And that led to a lot of challenges with intimacy, with sex, right? But those things drew me to have to or want to learn how to heal that, right? And so I was able to leverage different somatic practices and hypnotherapy to really help me heal a lot of that stuff. And now those are two of the biggest things that I use with my current clients. So as you can see, specific experiences, trauma, led me to develop specific skills and knowledge, right? And this is part of what makes me unique, helps to create my unique genius, right? Now, with that being in mind, the big thing here is you just want to first write out your skills and knowledge and transformations, and then you want to think about your story, right? What kind of drew you to develop these things? You can start from a younger person. Once you have your list written out, you can start from a younger person and just tell the story of how you got to where you are now, right? And what kind of drew you to transform in these ways, learn these things, just have an awareness of certain whatever is written down as your competences, right? Now we're getting more clarity on not only your genius, but also the specific type of person that you would feel most energized by, because they've likely had a similar story to yours, right? And so they're not only going to see you as a solution, but you're going to really feel excited to help them more often than not, right? Now, when you think about this story and when you're connecting these dots, you can really think about, okay, how are these specific things helping me with my health, wealth, or relationships, right? Now, this awareness is going to create more purpose and more expansion, right? Because it's actually going to connect you more with your calling. Right? As I said before, how your message, right? And as we heal, these different parts of us and shine light on these different parts of us, right? We get more wisdom, we get more power, we get more awareness of how we're here to actually help others, right? And so perhaps, these specific skills or the through line you see is that, wow, this really helped me in, one of these basic human needs. Now, more often than not, because everything's connected, these skills are going to likely be applicable to multiple basic human needs, the health, the wealth, and the relationships. But I really want you to consider, which one do you lead with? Which one do you feel most excited to lead with, right? Which one are maybe the people in your life asking you, to focus on because they are requesting things from you, right? Or which one just maybe intuitively you feel most called to lead with, right? So like, for example, me, I do a lot of healing work with people, right? But I know I don't want to just focus on that healing work. I get excited, I'm really here to help people honor their hopes and their dreams, right? I get really excited about helping people to actually build the business, right? So my focus specifically is wealth. Now, I did tell you just a second ago how I use hypnotherapy and somatic work to heal some health stuff, right? As well as some relational stuff, but we can maybe look at that as through more of a health lens, the way it was impacting me. Now, I've had friends ask me, yo, how did you deal with your performance anxiety? How are you, able to feel more confident with sex and things like that, right? Because I've told them about my story, right? Now, that's more of a health thing. We can be relational, but let's just say health, and we could lead it through more of a health lens, right? But I'm more than excited to share that information with these friends, right? And to help them and give them my whole process. I have a whole blueprint now because I've shared it with multiple men that have asked me. But I don't want to do that work as like a business or as client work. It just doesn't feel like what I'm here to do, although it would be really helpful and profitable, right? There also are relational things, right? I've created a much more secure attachment. I've worked through a lot of trauma, from just feeling emotionally neglected a lot of my life, and different, traumatic experiences I've had. And those things, of course, impact my ability to build reciprocal friendships and to build loving relationships, right? And I feel like I'm able to do that now. So I can, of course, help people with relationships, but that's not what I specifically feel called to do, right? So you really want to get, we'll be able to get even more clarity once we bring in the unique design part, the human design part. But as you think about connecting these dots and how they've helped you, one thing I like to ask people is like, what do you feel called to scream from the top of a mountain? What would that statement be? And that can often give you some insight into whether it's health, wealth, or relationships that you feel called to lead with, right? Now, with my people, even though I'm prioritizing them growing their business, we also use the business as a mirror for their healing. So that helps their health and their relationships as well. But although I acknowledge that in my messaging, that's not what I lead with. I lead with more of the business, more of the wealth stuff, because that's what I feel called to lead with. That feels purposeful to me, right? So there's that, right? Now, this is still going to make you position yourself in a way that is certainly going to be different than other people because of unique things you've been through, but there still might be some similarities between other people, right? But the next step that's really going to help you even more to position yourself in a way that highlights your uniqueness is being able to alchemize those different blocks of yours, right? So, those different parts of you that maybe you feel ashamed of, or maybe you feel like you can't share, or maybe you feel like make you not worthy or not good enough. Being able to give loving awareness to those things, right, and do the work to accept and love and process those parts of your experience, then allows you to turn those things that feel like blocks into more power, right? Those triggers, those wounds, they end up being gateways into more of your truth and more of your power. And that's not only going to allow you to communicate in a way that's more powerful, it's going to allow you to highlight more parts of your story that will be even more magnetizing to your ideal person, right? And so this is a part of the Unique Genius Framework. Now, what we want to highlight in a second is how you can leverage human design to help with this. But just to clarify, this alchemizing blocks into power piece, this is more so, right? Once we are seeing, okay, here's my skill set, here's how I can help people, being able to look at, what are the parts of me that I feel I need to hide? What are the stories that I feel like I can actually share? Like, what are the ways that I feel like an imposter, even though my life has given me a curriculum to help in this way? What are the ways that I still feel like an imposter, right? And a lot of that's going to allow you to really do the alchemical work to be able to love on these parts and heal these parts, right? Now, just to talk briefly about what can block you in this process. And the reason why I'm bringing up the blocks is not because I just want you to be like, oh, let me avoid these blocks. It's because often when we are aware of the blocks, we're able to reveal even more of ourselves, right? So the block for initially being able to see, the through line between your skills and being able to see your story is often like not acknowledging your value, right? Sometimes I meet with people, right, and we might be going through this exercise and they're overlooking parts of their skill set, even though those things, and often this happens because what's obvious to you or what feels natural to you might not feel like a big deal, right? So you just want to allow yourself to actually just acknowledge, all parts of you, whether it's different routines, whether it's your discipline, whether it's something that doesn't feel like a big deal, right? You want to allow yourself to do that, right? And then when it comes to connecting the dots, often what blocks people is treating these different parts of themselves like they're all separate. But they aren't all separate. In fact, they've culminated into you, right? And so if I think about myself, right, there's, I have a really a love for building automations and creating efficient systems, right? I also have a love of copywriting and just being able, and marketing in general, being able to move people emotionally, right? And I also really appreciate building communities around missions, right? And then there's all this healing work and meditation and all this stuff, right? And so I could treat them as totally different things. But that's ineffective because then you end up having multiple businesses, which to start off or in the earlier stages without the clarity of who you're focusing on, that's just actually not helpful. But in addition, you commoditize yourself, right? I know people who are just like, I'm a meditation teacher or I'm a yoga teacher, right? And some people's calling is to teach other people meditation or to teach other people about yoga or to really embody these different practices and share these practices. And there's still a unique story that they have that will allow other people to know, wow, this person's for me, right? So a lot of times people will lead with the modality, but it's less exciting and magnetizing for your audience if you're just talking about a different yoga pose versus if you're talking about your story and how yoga maybe has impacted you or what are the things you've been through or just learning about the depths of you, right? And so the big thing is you want to be able to leverage story to see how these different parts of you connect, right? And then another thing that can block you, which is there's some overlap here, but it's really just shame about your story and your experiences. And so as you go through this practice and get more clarity on your unique genius, I really encourage you to see how you can unshame parts of yourself, right? How you can really just allow yourself to be a non-judgmental witness unto your experience, right? So that's a little bit about the unique genius framework. And now I'm going to speak briefly about how you can also bring in some human design to support this work. Now we aren't going to go too deep into human design. I have my chart up here. I'll have other videos on the channel that will go even deeper into human design. But what we're going to just do is I'm going to point you to specific parts that you can leverage for insights around your positioning, how you may want to brand yourself, etc. Right? What might be effective for you to be able to really carve out a category for yourself. And so there's a couple of parts of human design. It's such it's really a more complex system than a lot of people give it credit for. A lot of people maybe use human design as a way to box themselves in. Don't do that, right? But some things that will be worth looking at are your type is going to be probably what's most popular, what you hear a lot of people talk about, right? And this is going to give you unique insight into, how you show up, how you might want to, be using your energy in the world, right? But what we're going to focus on for right now are your profile and then specific parts of your chart that can help you when it comes to thinking about your positioning, right? So your profile is really going to be insightful for helping you understand kind of like the role that you are playing with others, right? And so, for example, mine is 5-1. And so the 5 is more of the heretic, the 1 is more of the investigator, but when we think about it through the lens of business, right, the 5 likes to poke holes in things and really universalize knowledge, right? The 5 also really wants to lead with a lot of practical strategies, right? So that can allow me to see how I might be different from someone else that might be doing similar work to me, right? I really want to double down on my ability to, really create practical solutions and to be able to universalize those solutions, right? And the 1 is also the investigator. I study so many different things, right? And so when I think about my positioning, I can leverage that to understand like, oh wait, there are ways that, I'm doing research on all of these things, and I can leverage this to help someone create a foundation because of my depth of knowledge and my breadth of knowledge, right? And really be able to see how these different things connect together, right? And so that those gifts, those natural tendencies of mine can help me think about, how I want to really position myself, what I might want to lean on in my marketing. And there's another, actually, Human Design Masterclass is going to go much deeper than I will now that I will link in the description so that you can, check that out if you want to go even deeper into your design. But what I want to talk about now are just a couple of parts of your design that can help you to think about, let me pull this up, that can help you to think about really your positioning, right? And so I have some parts of the chart highlighted here, right? So if we zoom in, you'll see, right, there are these numbers here, and then there's a dot and another number, right? So we're looking at the number before the dot, right? These are called gates. You'll see in your chart there are specific gates that are colored in. These would be defined gates, right? These are gates that are going to be really core to your expression, right? And so what I want to look at is some of these gates for specific planets, right? And so the planet already has its unique expression, and then the gate is kind of coloring in or influencing how that planet is being expressed, right? So for example, first I'm going to look at the incarnation cross, which is the top 2 gates on the left and on the right. And I want to tell you about the side they're on and the significance of that, right? So starting off the right side, here's written as personality. Sometimes you'll see it as conscious and then unconscious on the other side. Right now it's personality and design, right? And so just to start up, if you don't have your chart, you can go to I like humandesignblueprint.com to get charts, but you can just Google human design chart and you'll be able to plug your information in and get one if you don't want to go to that website. But The sun sign, right? The sun sign, it's kind of like your why, right? It makes up about 70% of your energy, right? And a lot of the other gates, the rest of your chart is really supporting the highest expression of the sun. So when you think about your positioning, right, this sun sign is going to be really valuable to look at, right? For example, mine is gate 41, which is really, as I mentioned earlier, about helping people to honor their hopes and dreams, right? And so just being able to leverage human design, I was able to affirm this part of me, because there was a part of me that was like, I don't want to be like seen as like some like broy marketer, like who am I to be, telling people about how to express themselves, etc. But it's one of my gifts, and human design was really able to help me affirm that even more, right? And so you can look at your sun gate. There's one of my mentors, Christy Ng, Christieinge.com. She has a human design library that I think is really effective for being able to look at all of the gates, and being able to just understand what the gates are, and what they might mean for you and your positioning. But the next one that we can think about is your earth on the conscious side, right? And so the earth helps you to really feel grounded, really feel authentic, right? Really feel like you can show up as yourself, which is going to be so important for positioning, right? And my earth gate 31 is all around. It's about leadership. It's about owning leadership, right? And so when I don't own that I'm here to lead, I feel really ungrounded, right? But even so, when I think about my positioning, right? When I think about how this might combine with the gate 41, right? Because that's a lot of the exercise as well when you think about positioning. It's not just seeing these gates individually, but seeing how do they maybe combine, right? How can they be effective to other people, right? I'm really seeing, okay, there's ways that I can help other people embody their leadership as well, right? Not only owning that I'm a leader and letting myself lead others, but also when I think about how I can help people, there's elements of them being able to own their leadership as well, that I'm able to tap into and help people with, right? And then when we look on the unconscious side, right? The unconscious side, this is the side often where, I didn't mention this, so the personality side is often going to be things that maybe seem more obvious to you, right? You may already be able to see this in your personality, or other people might be able to see this in you as well, right? But when you look at the unconscious side, this side is really going to highlight for you, like maybe areas that you've had blocks or wounding around in your life. And as I said earlier, your mess is your message. And so these are still ways that you're going to be able to serve yourself, but also be able to serve others, right? So if I look at my unconscious sun, your unconscious sun, right, is really something that can trigger you to expand into even more of your purpose, right? So it may have triggered you at certain parts in your life to expand even more into your purpose, right? And so mine is 44, right, which is all around like interrupting patterns, right? It's all around noticing cycles, that might not be effective, might not be what you want, right? And then being able to understand how to do the healing work, how to do the work, period, to be able to transform those patterns, right? And so that is also something that I'm doing with that's been so effective for me, understanding how I want to serve, right? But it's also a big part of how I actually help other people, right? Because I'm able to help them see, okay, here are the patterns of sabotage, or here are the patterns of not owning your power, or yada, 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 and now we can actually transform them. And so being able to combine this with some of the maybe more strategic, practical work, etc., allows me to position myself differently, right? And then lastly, we can speak about the unconscious earth, which is the second one here, right? And the unconscious earth is really what can help you to connect even more with spirit, God, consciousness, etc., right? And so Mine is really about Gate 24 is really about making time for silence, right? And understanding the wisdom and the insights and the just the benefits of making time for silence, right? And so much of what got me into this work that I'm doing now was meditation and becoming a meditation teacher. And so, there's ways I'm able to use my experience of meditation and meditation teaching and different practices that allow us to go inside and reflect. And that's stuff that I use with myself, but I also am able to use that with clients, right? So just that top 4 allows me to see, wow, there are ways that I can help people grow their business, but it's not just through looking at their copywriting or what we're talking about now is positioning, right? But it's not just through that, right? There's also these other components of identity and embodying leadership and this different healing work that I'm able to bring in to the fold, right? And so that's a little bit of how you can use what's up here. It's these top 4 are called the incarnation cross, right? And the incarnation cross really gives you clarity around, how you are here to impact people, right? And so, your purpose in a way, right? So that's that. Now there are a couple other of these signs that I want to leave you with that can be really helpful to just give you even more color for your positioning, right? And so the north node and south node can be really effective. I'm going to just go through these quickly, right? The north node can really help you to understand what does your soul want to experience in this lifetime, right? What is a way that your soul wants to expand in this lifetime, right? And so that is, of course, going to be helpful for your positioning. The south node is often going to be something that you are already naturally gifted at, something that in previous lifetimes you already developed some level of mastery over. So that's also going to be really helpful to work in for your positioning. Mercury can be really powerful because this is often what you want to express and what you can receive a lot of value for expressing, right? And so this is really helpful for thinking about being magnetizing, right? But when I say this, it's not just what you are actually saying. It can also be just a level of embodiment. What are you expressing through your embodiment can be a helpful way to think about Mercury as well. And then Jupiter, right? Jupiter is often what can help you to be more prosperous, but not just prosperous because of the material things, but what can actually help you to expand your awareness around who you really are so that internally you feel more prosperous, which of course is going to impact the actions you take and the things you are able to allow yourself to have access to, right? And so these are some other elements that can really be, these are some other parts of your design that can be really effective for helping you think about your positioning. And a lot of what you'll see is that it's really just going to affirm likely parts of yourself that maybe you see but you take for granted. Now with that being said, you want to look at it with a curious lens and see it as something to hold loosely and play with, not use this as a dogmatic thing to identify with as like a rule book, but really to see, okay, what resonates and how can I allow this to give myself even more permission to be who I am, right? So as you can see, there are other gates, there are other signs. There's much more to the chart that we didn't talk about, right? And so realistically, leveraging your whole chart is going to be helpful in your business. But these are some, what I pointed out so far, some great places to start, and would along with your story, those are some things that are just going to help you to get more clarity on your unique genius, right? So if you would like this document This is, I don't even know how many pages this document is, but it goes much more in depth. It talks about other parts of the Unique Genius framework, and it talks even more about how to apply this to your business. And so if you would like this document, there is a link in the description. Go there and you can get access to this document for free. If you would like more of my help, being able to help you with guidance on your positioning, the healing work, the systems, the infrastructure to actually scale your business, right? Then there's also a link in the description, right? And that link will guide you to a quick video that can share more about how I can help you. And if you want more of my help, then you can book a call and get more of my help. If you want more access to more of my in-depth trainings, guides, my community of conscious leaders, you will also see a link to that in the description as well. And if you enjoyed this video, would really appreciate if you liked it, subscribed, shared it with other people that you feel can benefit. Sending you a lot of love, and have an amazing rest of your day.